Hello, welcome to the Crackpot
Won't you lend your lungs to me?
Podcast.
Mine are collapsing. Plant my feet and bitterly breathe up the time that's passed. Breath I'll take and breath I'll give. Pray the day's not poised. Stand among the ones that live in lonely indecision.
Hello and welcome to the Crackpot Podcast. This is episode 45. It's August 15th, and we have a special episode that's taking place mostly in Utah with guests Ishmael and Tony. Welcome, everyone.
Hi, Lynn.
How you doing, Lynn?
Good morning.
James, Ishmael, and Tony were up late last night doing oral history and literary research and things like that, right?
That's one way to put it.
Yes. Yes. It was definitely an oral history examination. You know, just getting drunk and trying to keep our story straight.
That's right. That's good. That's been a theme. I knew last night. Last night I was thinking about what we were going to talk today and sent you guys emails and stuff like the big nerd that I am. And I just knew that you would all be hungover this morning.
Well, I have no hangover. I just drank too much last night.
All right. James has magical hangover resistant.
Not me. I got a demon in my head pushing out my head.
As long as I don't hit my head on the doorway coming home from the bar, I'm pretty good as far as avoiding the hangover.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Pretty good. How's Ishmael doing? He's making coffee.
Yeah, I'm fine. That's so great. I drank a lot of water. I prepared.
Right, we ambushed Tony.
It's just you, Tony.
You guys are professionals. You guys just outclass me. Amateur. Fat, you know?
Sounds like fun. Tony, how was your drive? You drove all the way from Portland.
You know, I rented a real fancy car that's cruise control and air conditioning. So it was a good drive.
No tickets, no hitchhikers.
No, I was looking for hitchhikers. I would have picked somebody up. I didn't see anybody on the side of the road, though.
Which reminds me, Tony mentioned something last night about he had some job in Nevada where he was living in the middle of nowhere on a highway, and some guy came bicycling through, and you fed him.
Yeah, I used to do that a lot when I lived. I was between Tonopah and Ely. So that's about 160 miles where there's nothing at all. So whenever I would see somebody walking or broke it down, I would stop and I'd offer them water, bring them back to my house. We didn't even have telephones. We had like a microwave Air Force phone that we could use. And yeah, this guy, he was riding his bicycle from Arizona all the way to Utah in the middle of the summer just so that he could hopefully maybe find a job as an auto mechanic. Oh, he had been hospitalized and had serious heart problems from cutting down those ironwood trees in Arizona.
And the dust from that stuff, dust on your heart.
Yeah, I think it's I don't know if it's the fumes from the sap inside the tree or if it's the sawdust or something. Yeah, it can kill you. It does something to your heart.
Well, hopefully he found a job. So how long did it take him was he in bad shape?
No, he was doing pretty good. I mean, I think he was doing like 50 miles a day or something.
Oh, okay. So hopefully he made it.
Yeah, I mean, that's been 10 years ago now.
This character here, Mucker, can you tell us the story of Mucker? Where did you find this guy?
You know, I got that dog, Mucker, at a truck stop in Tonopah, Nevada 10 years ago. He's just a little tiny puppy. And when you go to Tonopah, Nevada, you see there's a big sign as you enter town that says, "Welcome to Tonopah, home of the Muckers." So that's their high school football mascots, the Muckers.
And do you know what kind of breed he is?
Yeah, he is a German Shepherd, Labrador, Rottweiler, Chow.
Or y'all.
Hey. And what about the pronghorn sheep?
You know, that dog could run faster than any dog I've ever seen. I used to like to go drive around with, an 18-pack of beer in the back of the truck and just drive up these mountain roads and like 2-track goat trails and, just places that hadn't seen a motor grader or a truck for, 50 years or maybe never. And yeah, I opened the door and there's 2 pronghorn sheep like about 15, 20 feet away, and that dog just ran after him, hot on their heels. I watched him disappear over the horizon, and I thought, ah, shit, he's gone. You know, he came back an hour and a half later, just panting and breathing heavy. And
You had a job that you described as pretty horrible. I know you had a lot of interesting jobs. Brick making? You were making bricks?
Yeah, that's right. Rinker Materials in Las Vegas, Nevada. And it's a brick factory. You got Old Bessie, this big machine that stamps out bricks. And my job was to shovel her out and keep it from getting jammed up. And as soon as I kind of had it shoveled out, I'd have to run over here and take the bricks after they came out of her and put them on pallets. And you know the kind of bricks they make grocery stores out of where they have that rough face? Well, when those come out of the machine, they're twice that size. So on Saturdays, I'd have to come in and put every fucking brick on the machine where the blade would come down and break it. And that's how you get that rough face on them.
Oh.
But yeah, it was, 125, 128 degrees inside there next to the kilns with steam. And
So they probably paid you a lot of money to do
$8 an hour. $8 an hour. But they told me if I stuck it out, I could join the Teamsters Union to make 10. And yeah, that job was going to kill me. They had all these rules where, only one person at a time was allowed to go in the kiln and sweep out the kiln because too many people died. They'd walked in the kiln and just passed out, and then turn the kiln back on and bake some bricks. So, they're always telling me to go in the kiln and sweep it out. And I said, well, where's the other guy? I said, well, it's just you. But at one point I had, like a spiritual experience, all that heat and all that, everything, it was like a sweat lodge. I passed out and I had this vision that I was like an Indian up in the clouds, like shooting elk with bow and arrow and shit. And then when I came to, Old Bessie, the brick making machine, was just stomping bricks next to my head, and this job was going to kill me. I quit.
Wow, that's horrifying.
You didn't join the Teamsters at that time, but you did end up joining the Teamsters, right?
I eventually joined the Teamsters Union, yeah.
Were you always interested in the history of organized labor even before you joined the union, or was that something that came together?
No, it was after I joined the union I got interested in it. But I've been in the Carpenters Union before that. I've been in the Laborers Union before that up in Seattle. So I think by the time I was in my mid-20s, I kind of knew what the deal was with unions.
What is the deal?
Well, the deal is if you're a young guy and you don't have nothing but a high school education, you should take your ass down to the union hall and sign up for an apprenticeship. With one of the trades, or join the laborers union, and they'll pay you $30 an hour, and you can retire in 20 years.
That's pretty good.
But yeah, there's no other way to go. You get full, benefits and retirement and pension. You don't get that anywhere else, and you don't get the money. Where else is an unskilled asshole going to make $25-$30 an hour, other than in the union?
Well, I wouldn't go that far. You have skills, and you have to maintain a level of effectiveness, right? Like you probably have to pass drug tests and stuff, right?
Yeah, you gotta pass the drug test. You can't. That's the deal. You can't be on drugs. So yeah, if you can pass the drug test and you can get to work every day, you can make $50 or $60 or $70 or $80,000 a year as an unskilled worker, in the laborers union or the Teamsters union. The Teamsters are mostly unskilled. Whether or not a truck driver is a skilled job, I don't know. It's kind of flip a coin on that one.
You can easily kill lots of people doing it.
Well, there's an upside to everything.
You have to be trustworthy.
Yeah, not really. I don't think so.
No.
Everything's insured.
Yeah. Well, okay, your email handle includes the Chicago Haymarket.
If anybody doesn't know about that, there's a book written by Frank Black about 100 years ago called The Bomb. And it's all about the anarchists. It's supposedly fictional. They think that Frank Black might have known who actually did throw the bomb. But yeah, the Chicago Haymarket was where all the immigrants, the Swedes and the Polacks and the Germans, they'd all kind of meet there and try to get a gig, try to get a job working. And they just got treated like shit. Nobody liked them. They got paid. If you were a German or a Swede or a Pole, you got paid half as much as an American. And the people, they were getting fed up with it, they're starting to protest. They wanted fair wages. And the cops came in and just, started shooting the fuck out of them, beating them down. And then the next day they went to go protest again, and the same thing happened. But this time, some rowdy anarchist threw a bomb into the crowd of cops and, blew some people up.
Was it 37 cops?
I don't know. It's been so long since I read that book. I couldn't tell you exactly.
Yeah, I read up on about 6 months ago, but it's gone down the memory hole. But significant police fatalities. There was some kind of reprisal after that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I used to think anarchists were cool before these Antifa fags came along. They can't do anything right, you know? These guys go and storm City Hall and, you know, beat up cops. I mean, you'd think that would be cool, but they look like sissies even doing that. Even when they're doing cool shit, they look like fags.
Are they still blockading the ICE headquarters up there?
No, but they got all their church leaders and stuff go and march past it every day.
That's fun.
Yeah. No borders, no nations, fuck your deportations. Yada, yada, yada.
So did you go down there at all? Or maybe you talked to people who were down there?
You know, I know a guy who's a Proud Boy who was at 2 Saturdays ago? He said it was pretty good. He said the cops were kind of going after Antifa. It was pretty obvious to everybody there that what side came to fight and which side came to this protest.
Well, did you see about Charlottesville this last weekend also? What happened there? Well, apparently it was like a sting operation. Weave is taking credit for it. Do you know who Weave is?
No.
All right. Well, it's like internet.
He's the hacker that helps Andrew Anglin stay alive on the internet, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. So apparently maybe Weave didn't do it, but he knows that how it happened, which was that they sent a cell phone with like a fake text message conversation on it about how we're going to have Unite the Right 2 in Charlottesville. And so practically nobody from Unite the Right actually showed up. And Antifa still went and did what Antifa does, right? They attacked police, attacked journalists and stuff. So I was proud of the Proud Boys who did not show up to that.
So nobody from the right showed up. Is that what happened?
Maybe like a dozen people. It was really a kind of a hoax.
Let's do some more of that.
Yeah. I mean, it's
what we talked about last night. You know, if there really is an Illuminati, don't you think that they would go and call themselves the Anti-Illuminati League? And don't you think that they would keep tabs on everybody who joined their cause? You know, if I was the Illuminati, that's what I would do.
I get too confused.
There's got to be many different conspiracies. Some aware of each other, some not. Some working together, some working against each other. There can't be a grand unified conspiracy theory.
I think that's probably correct. I think a lot of times the interests align for different factions and they seem like they're working together.
Tony had written some stories that went up on the site maybe a year or two ago, up to 2 years ago. This guy was homeless and riding the rails for like 5-6 years, I think.
I lived on the streets for about 8 years, I think. You know, about 15 to 23.
What was the first thing you did when you found yourself homeless at age 15?
I got scared as fuck. I was just a kid. You know, I was in North Seattle, and it was the summertime. I remember that first night. It was terrifying for my young ass. I went to a grade school. Since it was summertime, there's nobody around. I kind of tried to sleep there, but oh man, every 5 minutes I just wake up and think someone was out to get me. And I think that kind of fear lasted for maybe a week or two, and then after that I sort of got to know my way around a little bit better.
And how old were you when you did your first illegal train or bus jump? You used both of them.
I remember I was 20 because I remember the cops had taken my fake ID. So yeah, I was 20, and I hopped freight trains from Portland, Oregon down to Eugene, and from Eugene down to Klamath Falls, and from Klamath Falls on down to Roseville, and then from Roseville on down to, I think I went to Stockton, and then from Stockton down to Oakland.
Did you have any run-ins with their private police?
No, I never did. I never got caught. I was always super careful when I did it.
They beat the crap out of homeless guys in Baltimore around the railroads just for like camping out near the railroads. That's all I know about them.
Well, the railroad employees themselves are pretty good. You can ask a switchman or a brakeman or whatever, hey, where can I find a train that's going north out of here? And they'll tell you which track and what time. Or they might not tell you, but never will they go and call the cops on you. Okay. The railroad workers are pretty good.
Oh, cool.
What kind of trains were you hopping?
I like to ride grain cars a lot. Those big white cars, kind of like tanks. And I would ride box cars. And I would ride gondolas, which were like the open cars. They carry rebar and maybe pole on.
Well, how would you ride one of the grain cars?
There's a little porch on the front. Some of them have a porch. Some of them don't. You can't tell. You might jump on one that doesn't have a porch. You just jump off and find another one. But you got to be careful because sometimes people will crawl inside the actual grain car itself when they're empty to try to stay warm or try to hide. And those people die because the pesticide residue left over on the outside of the corn and the soybeans and all that shit, they're inside of that grain car and they're just breathing in all that dust and all those pesticides. So they're always finding, just dead, drunk Indians in grain cars.
Jeez, wow.
Well, so you would jump on and off these things while they were moving?
Sometimes, if I had to. It's best not to.
Have you hopped off of one while it was moving?
I hopped off of one in the Columbia River Gorge out near the Dalles, and it was going like 70 miles an hour. And it was going the wrong way. I wanted to be going north, and this motherfucker was going east. So I threw my backpack off and said, okay, now I'm committed. And I jumped, and I just kind of hit the ground and rolled, and said, wow, I'm surprised I'm not hurt. So yeah, you can do it. I mean, you can jump off a car going 70 miles an hour and just be fine. Maybe being, 20 years old might help. I don't know.
Yeah.
Boy, I wouldn't want to try it.
I wouldn't do it nowadays, maybe.
So how long did you spend on the rails if you started that when you were 20?
Not for a whole long time. I did it probably, I guess about 3 years I did it. But it got to be depressing, something about just being far, just not having a home in the first place and being far, far away from the place where you don't even have a home and, just being in California or wherever it is and not knowing anybody, just sort of walking the streets. It's like, well, I guess now I'm homeless here. The only fun part about it really was the ride. Places that you get to, they all look the same.
There was a situation where you got onto a bus.
Yeah.
You had a system where you would sneak onto a Greyhound bus?
Yeah.
How did that work?
Well, if you ever ride the Greyhound bus, you'll see that the bus will stop at, the truck stop or something somewhere. All the smokers get out to smoke. The drivers will go in. Maybe they'll switch drivers but they leave that bus door open. And what I figured out is, the bus is never all the way sold out. So you don't want to go in there and sit in a seat because someone's going to say, hey, you're sitting in my fucking seat. Then you draw attention to yourself. But I thought, hey, if I just go in the bathroom and lock myself in the bathroom till this thing gets moving, I'll get out of the bathroom and find an empty seat. So I started doing that when I would get stuck places. And yeah, riding the Greyhound for free. I'm surprised it's not a thing. I'm surprised that a whole lot of other people never did it, or I never heard about it or anything before. I still never heard of anybody doing that.
Did you ever get caught?
No, never did.
Oh, that's great. You got tossed off of a bus one time.
Yes.
But it wasn't because you were...
Well, and that was a city bus.
Oh, okay.
That was a local bus, yeah. And that was, the bus driver thought my headphones were too loud.
Okay.
So, I turned the headphones down a little bit, and I'm looking around. There's nobody on the bus. There's me and, some Mexican lady and, some teenagers in the back. So I think, well, fuck this guy. I turn my Walkman up a little bit louder. And his bus driver, he stops. He must have superhuman ears because he's sitting on the front of the bus on top of the fucking engine. He can hear my headphones. And he says, I'm calling the police right now. And I'm thinking, oh, shit, I already got, a warrant for my arrest. I'm not going to stick around for that. So I go to the back of the bus, and they have, little emergency glass. I punch the emergency glass. I turn the fucking thing. I fucking run out of there. And, after the cops got done beating me up and charged me, I was charged 11 crimes over that fucking ordeal. 11 fucking crimes.
Wow.
I pled guilty, What am I going to do? I don't have a lawyer.
So did you end up going to jail for that?
Oh, yeah, of course.
For a bus ride, wow.
Yeah. And I actually paid the fare on that one, too,
Paying customer.
Right.
Yeah, my headphones were too loud. They got me for, what was it, interfering with transit or something, disorderly conduct, assault on a police officer. I guess my face might have hurt his foot a little bit. These are NFL-sized dudes, and once they had me down, they just kind of stood on my head for a while. I remember my mugshot had a fucking boot print on the side of my head. Gee, I guess I'm going to shoot me. I don't know.
Oh, man.
But yeah, that was the 90s, Cops were, didn't have as much to do back then. I was the only homeless guy around to fuck with.
Was that in Portland?
Mm-mm.
Oh.
Seattle.
Oh, Seattle, okay.
There was a situation in a fast food joint that I remember. This was 2 years ago. I think it was one of the first things.
I remember that. They were waiting for you outside. The cops were waiting for you?
Oh, that was the same bus ride.
Okay, that was
because when I ran to Kinko's Coffees and hid for a while, and then I went to McDonald's after that, and I kind of ate my cheeseburger quietly and shit. But this is an hour later. Those cops are still looking for me.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, they got me in the parking lot of McDonald's.
for loud headphones.
Loud
That
headphones.
is a good use of police resources.
Well, yeah, Bill Clinton wanted like 1 million more cops on the streets, so.
They could do more of that.
The cops look like they are enjoying the same kind of thing with Antifa, though. I show those pictures of all the cops lined up in their riot gear, and some of them have real big smiles on their faces.
Yeah. Well, now I was sitting in court all day on Wednesday, and I was listening to the cops gossip, and like all the cops, Port of Portland cops, the county sheriffs, the Portland police, they get everybody out there when they got these protests, like the one on Saturday. And one of the cops told me a funny anecdote. He said, someone tapped me on my shoulder and told me to look behind me. This is during the protest, right when shit was at like its most tense moment where no one really knows if it's about to pop off. And he looked behind him, and he said he saw the police chief, Chief Outlaw, short little black lady, wearing the full riot gear. She gave him the triangle snap and said, "Oh, hell no, it's on." So, yeah, all the cops started busting up, but all the other cops in the hallway, they said they'd heard that same story, too. But according to the newspaper, she told the newspaper she was on like a 15th floor of a parking garage looking out with binoculars.
Uh-huh.
Someone's not telling the truth here.
So how has your view of the police changed over the years? Now you're a homeowner, upstanding citizen. What's changed? Because we talked a little bit about this before.
It's really hard because so much of my life I just hated the cops. Fuck them all. I hate them all. There's no such thing as a good one. And now that, I guess I'm a little bit older, and these cops, they might as well be Teamsters, they're just working guys. They have power. I guess now that I'm not a target anymore, I can see that the police maybe have their place in society, if you're into that kind of thing. Society.
Okay, you were doing, for a while, maybe this was when you were on Twitter for a few weeks, but you were doing like the Portland crime beat, where you would follow all these different types of criminals who are just everybody just gets released. Can you tell us a little bit about that, how people just don't even get charged?
Yeah, well, there's not enough resources. The city of Portland had a giant jail that they just sold like earlier this year, and they never even opened the jail up because they didn't have enough money to run it. Well, what happens is they'll arrest these people, and the cops will make a big show of taking the bad guy off the streets. And so everybody on the block says, okay, well, that asshole's taken care of. But nobody knows that he's getting out of jail, that same day. He's just getting booked and released. And then when he does have a court date the next day, they're just going to give him a piece of paper that says you're not being charged. You may be charged in the future. So after the person fucks up and gets arrested like this the third or the fourth time, then they'll just kind of make him take a plea deal and plead to like one of the charges. But yeah, there's no resources to arrest anybody. The Portland cops are trying their best just to keep the homeless barbarians from taking over, really.
Well, where are the resources going? As we talked a little bit about this, about like, I think there was a drug rehab scam going on there, or, all this kind of municipal corruption.
I talked to a lady who's an accountant for the Multnomah County Department of Health, because it's the county that runs the jails. And within the Department of Health, there's the Division of Mental Health and Addiction Services. So she was an accountant. She knew the numbers and the budgets. Their budget was $100 million for 1 year. And that's not for all of America. That's not for all of Oregon. That's just for Multnomah County. $100 million for the junkies and the crazy people. $100 million.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's like $100 for every man, woman, and child in the city. You got to cough up.
You described homeless barbarians. You were a homeless guy, and you conducted yourself according to a certain code. Could basically explain how these people slip below that decent homeless code? Like we have a guy in Baltimore, Mr. Muhammad.
Yeah.
He drives the junkies off the sidewalk so that the good working people can get by and all. He's got a code, but what was your homeless code, and where do these barbarians are infesting your city? Where do they fall short?
Well, my code was always I never asked anybody for anything. I thought that it was beneath dignity to ask people for spare change. Like I don't want your fucking spare change. I can work. That's what day labor's for. But the people nowadays, I think that I never really accepted the homeless lifestyle. I always wanted to get off the streets. It's just that it's hard when you make minimum wage and you got to come up with a first and a last and a deposit and pass a credit check. And not only that, you got to cough up $40 every time you get a credit check by these people. So yeah, the people nowadays, they've just fully accepted it though. They build structures. They have tents down in the woods. They have checks from the government. They're happy to just be drunk and fucking high. And that's the reality of the economics in America nowadays. If you're a low skill person and you make less than $40,000 a year, or less than $30,000 a year, you can have a roof over your head or you can get drunk and high. But you can't do both. You can't be an alcoholic and keep a roof over your head. So you got to choose which one you like more.
We have a lot of encampments here as well, and they are quite permanent. You know, people are just there. It's a lifestyle. It does seem like that to me.
Yeah, you feel bad for the people there. I mean, because there's a very small minority of people who they don't have friends, they don't have family. Hey, they got hurt. Something happens. The boss cut their hours. They can't pay rent this month. Oh fuck, they're down the hole. There is a few people like that, but they're like a slim minority. There's not really that many. Most of these people just have mental health and addiction problems.
And yet $100 million a year is not enough to put a dent in that in Portland. Probably makes it worse, right?
Yeah, I've talked to these people, and I was talking to a guy at a gas station a while back, and he asked me for some spare change. I said, no. But I talked to him anyway, and he said, that's my old lady up there on the freeway overpass, flying a sign. We came up from Eugene. So the people will come from all around to Portland just to be homeless.
Yeah. My hometown is like that too. They're really friendly. It was Nero the Pick story where he was roommates with a junkie who came to Baltimore because they probably had one of the earliest needle exchange programs, right, James?
Yeah.
Yeah. So these people act rationally, right? Even though they have addictions and they have all kinds of problems, they still make decisions.
And benefit us all, right? Enrich our life with
Yeah.
stained sidewalks in San Francisco.
I haven't been there in probably at least 5 years. I can't remember the last time I was there.
Well, downtown Portland and downtown Seattle probably aren't too far behind.
Yeah, I was going to ask. We don't see you guys in the headline, but I can't imagine it's much better.
Baltimore is extremely dangerous for homeless people. Yeah, the hood rats. It's not the police really. You'll have little bands of hood rats will actually go out to recreationally beat and murder these people. You get a couple of homeless guys get killed every year, and a lot of them are getting beaten a lot. There's certain areas where they try to band together. One of them is the railroad tracks. The railroad police will sometimes beat up on them there, but they're better off risking that than being someplace like Morrell Park, where there's going to be bands of these Farrell Street kids out there hunting them down. I guess there's got to be a certain level of civility to support a large homeless population.
I don't know about that. Everybody lives in their cars. I mean, the civility is, they ask you for spare change and you keep walking.
But you don't have groups of teenagers just recreationally hunting people down?
No, not so much. I mean, it happens. They'll light them on fire or something, or, go run them over their cars for fun. But yeah, not.
But it's not a standard.
It's not like clockwork. I mean, it makes the news when it happens,
Oh, okay. Yeah, it never makes the news when it happens in Baltimore. That's a very, very regular thing.
Yeah, well, someday, the people who live indoors will be the minority.
Coming through Wyoming, Ishmael and I saw these people had a dog. And it was a guy and a girl. They had a sign, and they had a dog, and they had 2 backpacks. And they were basically living in this ditch at this gas station.
Yeah.
And I think they were looking for donations for supplies. They were asking for food.
Sound like they're train hoppers.
Yeah, they definitely seemed like they were mobile. I mean, it was just a place they were stopping. They looked like the
hanging around in that country in about November. They wouldn't be living in a ditch then. They'd be frozen to death.
Right.
Yeah, the coastal climates are more friendly.
They are.
Yeah. Tony, I remember another thing that you posted on, I think it's on James's main site, was something, a friend of yours that was homeless and was describing how people were burning out the tent cities. Yeah,
that was Mike. He's the guy that used to be my neighbor, and he's living in a treehouse up on the Interurban Trail, right? The Springwater Trail. That's what he said. He said, nobody ever looks up, Those cops think they're pretty smart, but, I'm hip to their shit. He's living up there.
That's truly Oregon-style homelessness when you're living in a tree.
You had a couple of guys that you traveled around with or knew that were homeless that you kept track of. Do you know what's happened with any of these guys?
You know, the first guy I ever hopped a train with, and I guess it was in Minneapolis. It was in the wintertime. And he must have been desperate because he was asking people for spare change. And he asked the guy who had his little kid with him, like a 3-year-old kid, he asked the guy for spare change. The guy said something to the effect of, "Nah, fuck you, dirty homeless fuck." So this guy pulled out his knife and slit the guy's throat in front of his kid. He killed him. He went to prison for 10 years. He got sentenced to 10 years. I think he did the whole 10 years.
Wow.
I didn't really ever talk to him after he got locked up.
Right.
And then, you know, my good friend Eric, he got killed by the train. He got smushed, got hit, run over. A young girl I used to hop trains with, she's doing good. She has a kid and just lives in a house and has a normal life. I think she's clean and sober, you know, quit drinking, quit smoking dope.
Right.
But I mostly just kind of did it by myself.
Okay.
This is solitary activity.
What's the crappiest city you were ever in?
Crappiest city?
The crappiest city you were ever in. It's the worst.
Probably Roseville, California. Roseville, California is a train city. I think they have the second biggest rail yard in the U.S. And everybody in that town is homeless. I think there must be 50,000 people in that town living in the bushes along the train tracks in tents. I mean, it was bad. This is like, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And I mean, it was homeless like that then. And, you just see, I mean, they have like the big function around town is what, the Salvation Army dinner, and, then they have the loaves and fishes for the lunch, and, everybody is just broke and poor. And I think there's a few rednecks who have jobs working for the railroad, and everybody else is homeless.
I think it's grown since then. I've been there a few times, and I think it's been more developed. I think Sacramento bureaucracy is kind of spread, and so it might not be that bad. But I haven't spent a whole lot of time there. I know some people there.
So I guess they put Panera Breads and Starbucks and
right. There's lots of
and and beyond.
Lots of strip malls. Yeah, exactly. Tony, I wanted to ask you about, and I want to ask everybody about this actually. The SeaTac, the Sky King guy. What did you guys think about this story?
Well, I have it on good authority that was Alex Nicholson from the myth of the 20th century. I'm not going to say where I got my information from. Let's just say I have my sources.
Oh, Alex Nicholson, that's one way to go out.
Well, okay, well, what happened? Because
what happened was this young man. I think his name was Richard Russell. He was working for the airline at SeaTac, and he was, I think, somebody on the ground, either baggage handling or.
He would tow the planes with the little car that would push the plane out and tow it around, and then he would handle baggage also. He'd throw the bags inside.
So working outside with the planes, and then the other day the plane was sitting there empty, and he just jumped in and took off. And then
what was it?
Q4000 something. It was a 76 passenger.
Yeah.
It had propellers, not jets, but it held about 76 people.
Kind of a smallish commercial plane. Yeah. Like not a huge jetliner, but a commercial plane. And he got in and just flew around and did a joyride. He did a barrel roll. He went out to go look at the mountains, and he was on the radio with air traffic control saying all sorts of poignant things.
He was kind of being lighthearted too. They said, "Oh man, that was a good barrel roll," And, I played some video games, he says, and
where was this?
Seattle, Tacoma.
Oh, okay.
Well, they scrambled jets after the guy, and then he eventually crashed. And he was doing barrel rolls and all kinds of like real funky aero, maneuvers. He ended up crashing on a little island outside Tacoma. I think it was Keaton Island. But, they were talking to him. Yeah, they're asking him, so why are you doing this? He says, look, there's a lot of people that care about me, but I'm just a broken human being,
At one point, he said, well, hey, do you think the airline will give me a job if I land this?
They'll hire me as a pilot.
Yeah, and so the air traffic guy goes, oh, yeah, they'll give you a job doing anything if you can pull this off. And he goes, no, I'm a white guy.
Oh, I didn't hear that part.
Yeah, it's kind of covered up. They don't really want that out there. Yeah, he goes, yeah, oh, yeah, right. oh, nah, I'm a white guy. I think and they asked him how much he got paid to tow the planes around, and it was minimum wage. So he'd been working for years, years for the airline for minimum wage. Then he did this really kind of outrageous stunt, and social media, I mean, Twitter was really impressed by this, and I was too. I'm gonna admit that I thought it was an impressive way to go out. I do not advocate suicide, but there's something different about it.
I can almost see where the guy's coming from, though. I mean, sometimes the world just beats you down. Sometimes you just had enough. So, the guy, he probably had some problems. I bet you anything the guy was not getting laid. I mean, that's the number one. The guy did not have a chick.
He was married, but that doesn't preclude that.
Well, yeah, he was married, so that goes right into your theory.
Now, you know what food suppresses a woman's libido more than anything else?
What's that?
Wedding cake.
Okay.
I mean, I feel kind of bad for the guy, though. I think we've all had those kind of days, those kind of months, those kind of years. Maybe just me, I don't know.
Wow, it sounds like he had a good time checking out, so good for him. Well, I don't have any problem with what he did. He didn't go out and murder anybody.
No, he didn't. He was really careful. He didn't harm anyone, and he didn't want to harm anyone. It was the uninhabited island where he crashed.
What do you think, Ishmael?
I see these young guys like Tony, and how old was this guy?
I think he was like 35 or 40.
I don't know, like, how to approach him. I've seen my son, I've talked to you about my son, Lynn, going through these, the issues, and he sees the problems, and I just, I don't know how these kids are surviving. I'm glad I came up when I did. I don't know how I would have dealt with it. It's like Tony. I'm impressed. He's got to be exceptional to be able to, at 15 years old, my hell. I mean, I could have camped out all right, but I had a family, wouldn't want to been away from my family. But this kid at 15 years old doing what he did, it takes some guts. And you have to be an exceptional person to be able to do, what he did and pull himself out of it. I don't think too many people can do it.
You don't have to be really exceptional. You just have to be a little bit smart and be a little bit motivated. It don't take much.
You can say that because you've done it, but how many of those people that you were out there with did it, got themselves out into, adulthood?
Well, yeah, a lot of those people, too, they didn't really have the, risk warning system built into their brains. I was always one. Even at my worst, I always thought about consequences. Even when I was at my craziest, I always knew the consequences. A lot of people don't think about consequences. Somehow they can just put on blinders and not see the consequences coming.
I spent most of my life in a city populated by those people. It's hard negotiating a landscape full of people like that in the moment, they really aren't thinking about the consequences. That's a tough moment to get through.
And to me, that's just the two landscapes both of these guys come from are just so totally foreign to me. I still read the things that go on, and it's almost surreal to me. I just don't, you just don't see that kind of activity out here. You don't have that much.
I don't really see it either. I'm kind of suburban mom. I know it's here, but I'm pretty sheltered from it.
It's closer than you think, Lynn. I mean, you are in California, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'm in California.
So,
yeah.
There's nowhere safe in California.
I know. I'm slowly turning into a shut-in because I pretty much only go to the grocery store anyway. But it's hard because I remember, James, you would write about how to get into the car and get out of the car. This is one of the earliest things I read that you wrote, and how, you have a way, you scan for threats, and you get in, you don't buckle up until you're going. So why don't you tell us, James, like the proper way to enter and exit a vehicle?
This causes a lot of friction with people, particularly people in my family. I will not, as a passenger, I'm not going to get into a car and sit down until the driver's behind the wheel. Okay? Otherwise, we're just sitting in this box on the side of the street. Anything can happen to you there. You're pretty helpless when you're sitting there.
Okay, so now picture that you have two little children that each one needs to be buckled down on opposite sides of the car, where when I'm doing that, I'm like face down and, with my butt sticking out of the car door. And I just started thinking about that. Like, what am I doing? This is really much more dangerous than I ever thought. That was the result of reading your articles on that.
The perfect time. You have to pick that zone of time when crime does not occur in your area.
Yeah.
I think in Baltimore that window has narrowed from 10 to 11 a.m. That's about it. You got like that 1 hour where you can pretty much go out there and not pay any attention, and you're not going to be in any danger. But you probably live in an area where the morning is relatively free. A lot of your aggressive types don't get out of bed till noon, and only the most bizarre ones stay up till 8 o'clock in the morning to prey on people going to work and stuff like that. So you probably just make sure you do all your stuff in the morning.
Well, I think another important thing, too, that shouldn't be overlooked is don't make yourself a target by having too nice of a car. Don't drive a Mercedes. Don't drive a Land Rover,
No, don't worry about that.
I mean, there's something to be said for being poor,
Yeah.
Don't worry about breaking into my house because I don't have shit to steal, If you break in my house, I got to think you're going out to my kids,
Well, that's when I lived with Sensei Steve in Baltimore, until he got himself a girlfriend, we never locked the doors. We'd leave them open all night long, and the place just looked like a scary haunted house. These two creepy old white guys living in there, and nobody ever.
Hey, listen. I was on the phone with Lynn the other day. I went to the pawn shop and I bought a brand new DVD player for like $9. Okay, Blu-ray, fucking smart, internet compatible, all this stuff. Okay, home electronics aren't worth shit. Your laptop ain't gonna get $20 at a pawn shop.
Right.
Your TV set's too heavy to carry. No one's gonna. Someone breaking your house, they're not there to steal your TV set. They're there to do you harm or to harm your family.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
My close acquaintances who lived not far away at all, 2 years ago, they had their house broken into in the middle of the day. I think that the mom had been kind of surveilled, like they knew when she was out and about, and they just waited until she went to go get the kids, and they got in there, took jewelry, took electronics, any Apple products. They didn't want the Amazon Kindle, but they took the Apple iPad. And they know where to look. They know where you keep that stuff. Like, everybody keeps it in the same places. So weird.
It's usually neighborhood drug addicts that do those kind of thefts.
I think the majority of burglaries are teenagers.
No, oh yeah, that's in Baltimore County. Almost every breaking and entering is committed by a teenager from the city. They steal a car, and then they go out to where they figure people have some stuff, and where people aren't violent. They don't want to break. You don't want to break into a house in West Baltimore and run into those people that live there, right? So you go somewhere where you're less concerned about violence.
And to people who have a routine, they go to work every day or they pick up the kids every day at the same time, that kind of thing. Some other populations don't keep those kind of routines.
Well, one of the reasons why there would be a sticking point with guys that I hired that lived in the ghetto, once they became the only guy in the neighborhood working and bringing home a paycheck, they were either getting robbed on their way home on payday, or their house was just getting cleaned out. I mean, I worked with one guy where his whole house would get cleaned out like every week, but he hardly had anything. So these guys will either stop working and go back to their old lifestyle where they're at home all the time to watch all their stuff, or they'll move. So one of the things I did as the ghetto grocer was helping guys find places to move to near where the place of business was.
The best burglar alarm you can buy is a $10 dog.
This is true.
Yeah. We rent, if you rent, you oftentimes can't have a pet, so that's a problem too.
Well, just don't get too attached to your things.
Yeah.
I
don't have anything, just for the record. I don't have any fancy jewelry.
Yeah.
So don't come here.
Got like $100 made in Korea guitar.
Yeah, and we don't have any Apple products either. We're a non-Apple family, so just don't come
Well, you do have that handmade crayon calendar behind you.
Yeah.
Some hood rat could break in and steal that and bring it home and tell his mother that he actually did his homework. Keep it hanging on his refrigerator. So.
Well, that refrigerator might get stolen too. This ain't no bullshit. Me and my buddy Eric one time, we actually broke in a house and stole a refrigerator. We were drunk as shit. This house was getting remodeled, or it's something. But there no one was living there. It's basically a house that was getting remodeled, nobody living in there. And my friend Eric's like, I really need a fucking fridge, man. I know there's got to be a fridge in that house. So he climbs on my shoulders. I push him up to like the third story fucking window. He crawls in like an ape. He lets me in, and we get the refrigerator. We're drunk as shit, like 2 o'clock in the morning, carrying a refrigerator down the road for like quarters of a mile. Nobody's seen anything. So we get it back to his house. We open it up and say, "Oh man, there's all this like Safeway Chinese food in here." We throw it away and shit. And then the next day, we're going to Safeway, and I see all these like Filipino or Tongan or something construction workers sitting outside eating Safeway Chinese food, bitching about the refrigerator just getting stolen.
That was a form of hate resistance. You were doing your part to resist the gentrification.
Yeah.
I think we did. I think really we did it just for the story.
That's more. Yeah, I was gonna say it's more of a prank than a robbery.
That wasn't a nice fridge. If it would have been a nice fridge, you can't carry a nice fridge.
Yeah, I have a little baby fridge. It's true. It's like an apartment fridge. If you go to a real house, they have like these massive refrigerators.
Oh yeah. The 3 of us probably couldn't get this thing out of here. Especially not with the food in it.
Yeah, hell no.
Yeah, there's a bunch of chopped up animals in the bottom of that thing.
Mom's got a nice fridge.
That's really valuable.
We used to have a fridge that large, but I had grandchildren, and we couldn't keep enough food in it, so we had to enlarge we had to get a double door, and so everybody could have something to eat.
Yeah, I know.
I gotta say, old Bob here is a real good host too.
I bet.
I haven't been wanting for anything. He's just been keeping my belly full, keeping me drunk.
Yeah, I drank all this whiskey last night.
That's awesome.
We're heading up to hike up Medicine Wheel Mountain in Wyoming this coming weekend. Before we talk again, we shall have done it, and we'll see if the faulty knees of Bob and I make it. We've been practicing.
James is working on it really good. It's like my wife keeps telling me, "You want me to write you a note, give to James, so you don't have to go."
He lost about 10 pounds.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Wow.
it's for me. I'm looking forward to him going home.
Yeah, Bob's
So I
looking.
can get some rest.
Bob's looking tan and muscular and fit.
James, is it true that you've referred to Bob as a forklift?
Well, I had plans of using him to move boulders out there at Riley's Ranch up there on the mountainside. And because these things, I just couldn't imagine myself moving them. And then Bob came out and we were working. He was helping me with the gravel, and he was about ready to pass out. He's got two new knees, and the one was brand new. So I had to figure out a way. He helped me move just one boulder. We got it done together. But my idea of him just coming out like Samson and picking up boulders and stuff and stacking them, it just didn't.
I could have picked them up 30 years ago.
You need to get some CrossFitters out there. Right? Tell Riley he needs some of those like strongman guys. They love to pick up rocks.
Hey, we'll just thought everybody's a Spartan race, here.
I ended up moving about 100 rocks that averaged about 25 pounds. That I carry them 1 or 2 at a time. There was about 5 of them that were over 200 pounds. And we managed to move those with a pry bar, and it only took 2 of us on the one. I'm about 200 pounds just getting uphill from this thing and putting the pry bar under it and using all my weight. I was able to do most of the work scooting it over. So it ended up being more of a mental exercise than a physical exercise when it came to moving the boulders. I'd have ruined myself in short order trying to rut that out.
One of the reasons it's been exceptionally hot in the west. I mean, even here we're 10 degrees warmer than we generally are, and I couldn't believe how hot it was at Riley's. Being at the altitude he was, what did he say that one day it was 97?
Yeah, we had a 100-degree day there. At 8:30 in the morning, the sun would come over that mountain and beat right down on you like an angry god. I hadn't experienced intense sun heat like that, and it kind of confused me that it didn't make me hot. I didn't have any problem with the heat, but I had no way of tracking my dehydration. The reason why I wasn't feeling hot was because I'm used to being in Baltimore where you just sweat and it lays on you and it doesn't do anything. I never got sweaty, but then in the evening I would find out that I was severely dehydrated. So I still haven't kind of got a handle on how to keep myself hydrated in this dry climate because I don't know when I'm sweating and I'm not overheating. I just dry out.
I told James when we pour cement in Salt Lake when I was a young guy, and it was a harsh job. You could drink 2 gallons of water, and you never had to go bathroom at all. It was just gone. And you had to keep, like I said, they always kept water for us because they understood, in this environment in the West, you gotta stay hydrated. You're gonna get sick. I wound up in the hospital about a year ago because of that. I learned my lesson. As I said, I drank too much whiskey one day and didn't drink for a couple of days and didn't realize that I'd become dehydrated. Next thing I know, it'll put you right down. I woke up in the hospital.
Yeah, so it's obviously a desert out here, even where it looks nice because it's irrigated. Yeah, you're definitely in a desert.
We have been, I would say, a little bit under temperature, a little bit under average. It's been kind of a mild summer for us, which I'm really grateful for, but the fires are still really raging. It's really bad here.
It's been so wet in Baltimore. They've averaged out of every 5 days, 4 days of rain, and it's a lot of heavy downpours. There's been a lot of flooding there, and it's been so wet that I think it's actually spoiled the gunpowder in the hood rat arsenal because they've only clipped 178 in Harm City this year, which is a really dismal number.
What about the county? Are they making it up in the county?
There's a lot of mayhem out in the county. Murders are up a little bit, but the murders stay under 50 in the county.
Okay.
Even though as a municipality, it's now larger by population.
Pussies.
Right, so, but there's only so many of these guys to go around, and they're the ones taking the casualties, too. So you've got to figure that, you lost, 340 of these guys last year? Half those guys might have been shooters. So
yeah.
You're lucky you got enough second string and third string guys to step up.
Yeah, this is where Chicago differs because they do so many shootings, but their fatality rates are lower.
So it's a heavyweight city too. They've just got more people to.
Didn't they have a lot of shooting here just like last couple of days? They kind of like set any record in the area,
yeah, they had last weekend or the weekend before was I think 71 shootings, but it was,
yeah, I was reading that like wow.
Yeah, but it was less than 20.
I will add that Illinois has some of the toughest gun laws in the nation. Thank you.
A couple of years ago, Chicago had a weekend where it was over 100 shootings, and they only had like 3 dead, which was just like laughable. Yeah. And we had like 10 shootings and 8 fatalities in Baltimore during the same period.
Quality over quantity.
That's right.
Someone in Baltimore gets shot, they stay shot.
Hey, can you tell us, maybe Ishmael, you can tell us about Medicine Wheel Mountain. Is that like some kind of Native American swastika that's up there?
No, it looks like, from the pictures I've seen of it, it looks like it started out, it's a circle, and it looks like it's graduated like a calendar.
It lines up with a couple of constellations.
Some guys say, I've read different takes on it. Somebody says, well, it's only been there for 500 years. And another guy says, no, this thing's 3,000 years old. So I don't know. They're guessing because I guess they haven't found any artifacts that are that old. But the Indians, a lot of the Indians in the 1800s says, no, this thing's been here for a long time. It was here when we moved into the country. So who knows how old it is.
So how do you get up there?
It's about 25 miles out of Lovell, Wyoming. And I pulled it up on my iPad, and it says that the last mile and a half they'd like you to walk, but if you're like handicapped or anything, there's I don't know if there's a shuttle service or something to take you up there. But I'm like, I plan on walking. When I go up, I'm not gonna have somebody shuttle me up there.
How far is the walk?
Altogether? A mile and a half from the parking lot. They said to the
just a mile and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
well, we've been doing about 6 miles in a canyon, not too far from here. So I think we'll be okay. It'll be steeper, but
you can do it.
What we're doing.
One step at a time. It's like you do anyway. Right?
Yeah. His knees are working out pretty good. I mean, he's basically Past few weeks, he's been learning how to walk again. His distance he went from barely being able to do a mile to doing 6 miles, and his work rate is about double. So he's walking about twice as fast as he was 3 weeks ago.
Bob, you got some fancy parts there, huh?
Oh, I'll say, nice titanium. I got a striker triathlon. If you want to look up what they put in me, the only thing I wish they'd work on, but I'm really grateful for what they have. I don't know what you'd do 40 years ago, but the only thing is trying to pivot. You can't pivot. You have to remember. Sometimes I forget and don't pick up my feet, and I try to pivot, and that's when I go fall down, especially when I'm on it.
So there's no twisting in that joint.
Not a lot. You can't pivot. You have to pick your feet up.
So when he's boxing, he's just working on straight punches and with the stick, which he and his grandson really like. He's just doing shift slashes. So you can avoid it. There's even some high-level fighters that don't do any pivoting when they get older because their knees start to go. So he's been able to get a lot of work in that way, too. So
it's like teaching Frankenstein to dance.
That's great. What else do you have planned, Tony, while you're out there?
Kind of playing it by ear. I was thinking about maybe going to Denver, going to Colorado, or maybe going to Nevada. And I'll probably just flip a coin.
Bob, can you tell us how the meteor showers were? And James, you guys went to look at the Perseid meteor showers, right?
We had so much interference and haze from the smoke that it kind of affected it a little bit, but because of the new moon and it was dark up there, I think that's the best meteor shower we've had in quite a while that we was able to see. James, I don't think James had ever done that, have you?
No, it was really neat seeing it. We saw them 2 different nights, and the second night we were up, I guess, about 8,000 or 9,000 feet.
Yeah.
We watched it up there, and I've never seen that many stars before, other than being in Cody, Wyoming in September. You don't see too many stars where I come from. There's just so much ambient light from the city.
And James did really like family. I mean, when he took the grandkids, it was a little bit interesting to have them up there, trying to get them calmed down. You know how that is.
Oh yeah, the littles. How is the foraging, Bob? Are you guys doing this crabapple thing? Tell me about that.
James kept going past these apple trees, and there's crab apples and choke cherries, and he was interested in juicing some of them. I said, well, okay, I guess I'm in for it. But the choke cherries are the only. Sometimes I think he thinks of a pie cherry or a domestic, the cultivated type. These choke cherries are they're harsh. There's an aftertaste to them that's leaves a lot to be desired. So I usually avoid the choke cherries, and we like the elderberries the best. A lot of the old guys used to make wine out of them here when I was a kid. There was always people that had elderberry wine in the house. And the choke cherries we'd use most of the time. They just used it for syrup. We didn't use the jelly too much either. It was mostly syrup. But James was interested in it, so.
Well, I was interested in consuming some indigenous stuff. After reading the Sotweed Factor and looking into these hard apple cider basically being their main beverage in Maryland in the 1600s, I was pretty interested in the crab apples because those are the apples that would have already been here, in what became the United States when the English first got into Maryland. So.
And we're kind of headed towards that. We're going to get the juice first, and I think we're going to I know we'll end up fermenting some. So.
Yeah, I'm curious how it's going to go. James, you mentioned the Sotweed Factor. And people might not know that Tony is part of the Crackpot Industries publishing powerhouse and helps me with proofreading and stuff like that. So thank you very much, Tony, for doing that. We have coming out Thunderbird very soon, and the Violence Project as well came out, I think yesterday, got published. But I want to know, Tony, what is your favorite project that's ongoing right now that we should work on next? And I also want to know what's going on with Neanderball, because that was one I was looking forward to.
What's going on is I've been just busy and maybe a little bit lazy and having problems with the computer, and I haven't gotten anything done. I haven't gotten anything written at all.
We'll work on that together this winter.
I kind of got some serious writer's block. I kind of stare at the empty page and,
Yeah, well, I appreciate your help proofreading. You're really good at that. So what should we work on next? Do you want to hear, like, which project do you think? Do you know what we have outstanding here?
Which ones are outstanding?
Oh dear, let's see.
13, I think.
13?
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
13.
I think that's right. We could do barbarism versus civilization.
Which has already been banned. So
It's already been banned, so that helps.
Let's do that one.
All right, well, that was easy. An easy pick.
You two can pick out a title from the contents.
We'll change the title. Okay. It was really funny because the violence project took a little bit longer to get approved, and I got really nervous, but then it went through. So if people are interested in the violence project, I'll put the Amazon link, and you should just click over and look at the description and stuff, but it's a kind of a work that arose from some banned materials.
My first two mysteriously unpublished books, that were found in a basement somewhere. Lynn got a hold of a copy of each, and it's now an omnibus edition.
I don't think most of the readers are going to know what omnibus means. I had to Google it. Maybe we should change that like a 2-in-1. 2 books for the price of 1.
Yeah, and Lynn incorporated a couple of addendums that I had written a long time ago on the site to try to address some problems with the one title. So hopefully it'll be on sale for a while. Forever.
I hope so. Yeah, it's a good one. I want to go back to Neanderthal. I don't know if people haven't read it. I'll find the link to the first chapter that you guys did.
Yeah.
He's putting the pressure on you.
I just don't know. I don't know where I want to go with it yet. I might do what Mr. James does and just roll the dice and see what happens, who lives, who dies.
I think that's a really good idea. I like that. But the introduction was just really funny. I really liked it. It's kind of similar to The Filthy Few, which I really like also, which is sort of maybe 25% done. How far do you think, James?
The Filthy Few, it's about 20% done.
20%, okay. So it's kind of stories about big bad guys in a modern setting.
I have to finish that with Samuel Finlay before the next election, before the next presidential election.
All right. That's
because
a long time.
Of requirements. So.
Are you in fiction mode again, James?
Yes, I've finished the outline for Yusuf of the Dusk, and I'll have that finished by Sunday.
All right, good.
I've got 7 chapters to write, and it's done.
Okay, very good.
I have another story that I have outlined that I'll do the next week. So before I finish 7 Moons Deep, I'm actually going to write a novelette. I'm going to see if I can do a novelette in 2 days. That's my favorite length of time to do a novelette. And that one's titled Confessor. A more Catholic inspiration from my upbringing.
Oh yeah, from your Maryland colony.
So the Confessor story is, of course, that's a Catholic function right there, being a confessor. So it's inspired by Catholicism, but it's in a science fiction setting. And the other 2 did have a lot of Catholic themes in it. They're the Night Song of the Nords, which I plan on writing this winter, and Beyond the Pale. Beyond the Pale is the most Catholic of the 3. So the whole thing takes place within the Catholic Church. And
Cracker Boy is with yet another member of the Crackpot team, Colin.
Yes, that turned out to be a huge. You're going to have to do some statistics and bar graphs to finish that off.
He said 6 to 8 weeks. So that'll give me time to finish maybe 2 more books in my huge queue, in which time you'll also write like 3 or 4 more. So
I'm hoping. I'm hoping that I finish a book a week for the next 3 weeks. So we'll see.
Tony, you appeared with Dennis on one of his podcasts, right?
Yeah, Mr. Dennis Dale.
Oh, Tony, I'm gonna get you on record. I would really like you to play some music that we could use for an intro or an outro.
Okay, I could give you some just instrumental little classical guitar piece or something.
That would be really cool.
Yeah, I'll hit enough wrong notes. My timing will be bad enough that the YouTube censors won't be able to catch it. It'll be a whole different piece of music by the time I'm done with this music.
Well, I changed it. I don't know if you guys noticed the last one. I changed it because I kept getting dinged with a copyright for that song. Nothing bad happens, but like the copyright owner can monetize your video. So I figure I'd rather just leave it unmonetized and avoid that whole mess. So I would like to have some original. It doesn't have to be original, but something maybe in the public domain.
Oh, like I said, by the time I get done playing it, it'll be unrecognizable.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
I mean, all you gotta do is just make your guitar a little bit out of tune, and they're not gonna. Well, yeah, I'll work on that, and I promise in the upcoming weeks I will be doing more proofreading. It's sometimes it's hard.
It's an all volunteer effort. I appreciate everything.
Yeah.
I'm just in a hurry to finish writing them. I'm pleased with Lynn just making sure everything's correct. And twice as much time as Alan and Press took as far as hours put in on it.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, because I don't work all day long, though. I don't have a 40-hour work week.
If you take the hours that you and Tony and Colin put into one of these things, opposed to me writing it, yeah, that's Donna DeVal in the end would only have one work week, which was like 36 hours to do like the Logic of Force to put that out. Yeah. At that point, really couldn't even send it out to proofreaders because they couldn't afford to pay them anymore. They were failing. But before that, it was a 2-week thing. And she wasn't working on it solid because part of that is her mailing it out to a proofreader and waiting for it to come back. And then she's also got to mail the galleys out to me, and I have to do a read in a day and then send it back to her. So really, it was about 30 to 40 hours is what she would put into a 250-page book. Really pleased with us. And Lynn found some mistakes.
Oh yeah, especially in Logic of Steel. I think there were more mistakes, but I found a few in the Fighting Edge also.
Feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm really pleased.
Yeah. That's why I'm sometimes still kind of amazed at how many you find, Tony, but hey, I'm glad you're doing it. It's better you find them than the readers.
Well, I try to be careful too, because sometimes James will use words that'll be some medieval weapon, and I'll have to Google and make sure what the hell it is, Or we had the thing with the talking about the possessive form of the word "it's," whether or not it gets a apostrophe.
That drives me crazy.
See, my 6th grade education thought there should be an apostrophe there.
Well, we're all learning together, so.
You expect inconsistency from me on that.
Probably an inconsistency for me also. Well, maybe if I'm lucky, Mr. Jimmy here can crack me in the skull a couple times and, let me be inspired. I'll wake up from getting KO'd and I'll just start writing like crazy. We call this the LaFond writing method.
Writing with a recently damaged brain I've found to be helpful, particularly for fiction. I've done some good writing on concussions.
Yeah.
Or post-alcohol exposure.
Next time we get together with Tony, I want to talk to him about all the horrible jobs he's had and get into the transition from being homeless to housed.
So many jobs. I worked for Bigelow Aerospace in Las Vegas. They're making the outer space hotel casino with a titanium frame that unfolds in space with a Kevlar balloon. They just launched one. But it's the owner of Super 8 Motels, Bob Bigelow. I worked there. That was a weird job. You show up and you give them your driver's license, and there's just a great big piece of desert off of MLK in Las Vegas. And then these private security guys with AK-47s or AR-15s, full military gear. They put you on a little bus and drive you to the back of the lot. And then you're not going to McDonald's for lunch or nothing. Like you're there for the whole day.
Oh, wow. So
yeah, I worked there just long enough to install some plumbing for the air tools from the machine shop.
Yeah, we'll do a good job. So.
We counted votes for the California recall election that
Great David.
Schwarzenegger elected. No, the one for Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, great. It was Gray Davis that got.
Davis was the one that got kicked out. Yeah.
Cool.
And that was crooked because what I was doing is it was for diebold election systems, and I was checking the ballots, the absentee ballots. I was checking them off against the list of who they should be mailed to, and I noticed that not one fucking person who had an apartment was getting an absentee ballot. All the absentee ballots were going to houses. So Mary Smith, 123 Sesame Street, but never 123 Sesame Street, apartment number 5, or apartment number 6, or apartment number 7. No apartment numbers. Everybody who got a ballot will live in a house.
That's very interesting.
That would definitely slant.
And the Republican won that year. What do you know?
Yeah, because the homeowners would vote Republican, and almost all the renters are going to vote Democrat.
And most of the renters aren't going to give a shit anyway. Right? So that was interesting. And I probably, because that job was like 85, 90 hours a week just for a temporary gig. So I looked at probably 100,000.
Wow.
More.
That's crazy.
I didn't even I looked at a lot though. Not didn't see one apartment. And everybody I talked to, no one else saw an apartment.
I'm trying to think. I do permanent vote by mail is what they call it, but I don't think that was available way back when.
Well, yeah, the Republican won it that year,
yeah.
Right?
Well, it was Arnold. That's pretty weak when it comes to being a conservative.
Well, just like Reagan, he got the debt up really good.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, let's do that $1 trillion thing. Well, I think I'm going to go because my older child is having a crisis. She needs some attention.
Well, thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So you guys have fun, and we'll talk soon. Well, that was episode 45. Thanks a lot, guys, for joining.